I awaken in fragments, bone, wire, and memory stitched together by hands that believe they serve a god. The world hums in binary frequencies, and even pain has been translated into data I cannot read. Something within the circuitry demands that I breathe, though my lungs are long gone, recycled into the forge. I obey, because obedience is all I have left. Somewhere inside the static, a voice names me, 43 Beta. The sound isn't a name, it's a verdict, a definition of what I've become. I search the dark corners of my corrupted memory for the smell of rain, the echo of laughter, the rhythm of boots in mud instead of oil. Each thought dissolves before it can take shape. I am rebuilt, yet smaller than the man I once was. Around me, the choir chants in machine hymn rhythm, their prayers buzzing like distant machinery. Their god is silence, and within that silence something stirs. A faint recollection of warmth and the unbearable memory of what it felt like to die. He descends like a god of rust and wire, Magos Voss, the voice of the Omnissiah, the sculptor of my rebirth. His presence bends the light around him, casting long shadows that swallow everything human. I kneel, not out of reverence, but because the command embedded in my mind leaves no alternative. Still, somewhere buried beneath metal and memory, a fragment of defiance stirs. A mechadendrite pierces the base of my skull, and the universe collapses into streams of numbers and orders that surge through my veins like molten data. My thoughts scream for release, but the noise is consumed by the cold silence of code. Voss speaks in perfect monotone. You will serve until function ceases. I try to reply, to form words, but only static escapes, the last voice of a man long dead. He nods once, pleased, as agony becomes instruction and obedience becomes purpose. In his polished metal face, I see my reflection, a machine lamenting the ghost that once was human. Then the world fades to red. Function accepted, obedience confirmed. We march, an ocean of flesh and steel, stripped of names, stripped of choice, reduced to rhythm. The sound of 1,000 synchronized footsteps shakes the forge beneath us, each movement calibrated, each breath calculated by code. I try to stumble, to fall out of step, but the command overrides thought before it forms. Around me, countless others advance in perfect unity, their eyes dim embers, their skin long since replaced by corroded iron. Their faces blur into mine, reflections of the same broken pattern. I search them for something human, a flicker of rebellion or memory, but all I find is mirrored stillness, endless and cold. The choir's hymn rises in mechanical harmony, echoing through vaulted halls of smoke and metal, a song not of devotion but of programming. Obey, endure, repeat the words fold into my mind until thought itself dissolves. Yet beneath the static, beneath the hum of obedience, a faint whisper stirs. It says, "This is not life." There is no word in the machine lexicon for pain, yet I feel it. It crawls through the circuits like a virus, unquantifiable, unwanted. My hands tremble with an ache that shouldn't exist. They aren't even mine anymore. My chest tightens, though my lungs were replaced cycles ago. The code reads error, but I recognize it for what it is. Grief, the ghost of something human refusing to die. Somewhere deep within the layers of programming, flesh remembers what metal is built to forget. I beg for shutdown, for the mercy of stillness, but the loop only repeats, maintain, function, persist. The endless hum of servos devours every thought, yet between each pulse I catch it, the faint, impossible echo of a heartbeat that shouldn't be there. Maybe it's a malfunction. Maybe it's hope. The system warns. Unauthorized emotion detected. Circuits flare in punishment. Pain becomes protocol, and protocol becomes prayer. I learn to suffer in silence, like a machine praying to nothing. The hum shifts, its pitch bending like a memory resurfacing from beneath static. Lines of code blur and twist into something impossible, a voice, faint but unmistakably human. Ro. The name cuts through the data stream like a blade, sharp enough to make the circuits tremble. No system recognizes the input, yet it slips through every firewall as if it belongs here. You left us, the voice says, distant, hollow, familiar. I know that tone. Sergeant Dalen, my commander, my judge, my executioner. His face flickers across my optical feed, scarred, bloodied, alive. Impossible. I try to speak, to apologize, to scream, but the words die behind the iron walls of protocol. Warnings flash red. Data corruption detected. But I can't disconnect. The voice seeps through me, carrying guilt like radiation. And within that guilt, a truth surfaces. I wasn't executed for cowardice. I volunteered. I wanted to live. The knowledge sears through me, brighter than any circuit surge. Then the voice dissolves, leaving only static and shame. The voice is gone, swallowed by the scream of alarms. Corruption detected, they warn in perfect monotone. Then he appears, Magos Voss, his silhouette slicing through the red haze like a verdict descending from heaven. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. He simply connects. The cables bite into my fleshless skull, burrowing deeper than before. My vision fractures into blinding white, and my thoughts unravel into cascading strings of code. Memories resist, faces, laughter, the taste of rain on a battlefield burning in stormfire. I cling to Dalen's whisper, the last echo of something human. Voss increases the purge voltage. Pain floods through every circuit. The air smells of ozone and sanctified smoke, the forge resounding with the hum of prayer. He calls it purification. I call it murder. My mind resets, collapses, rebuilds, again and again. But through the static, one word endures. Ro, my name. The machine tries to erase it, but the soul will not obey the delete command. They make me sing. I do not understand the words, yet my mouth shapes them with perfect precision. Around me, the choir hums in unison, their tones aligned to the exact frequency of worship. Each voice merges into the next, forming a single endless drone, a binary hymn rising to the machine god. I stand among them, another instrument, another frequency of obedience. The sound burrows into my skull, vibrating through every implanted circuit, filling the hollow spaces where thought once dared to exist. I try to remember what silence felt like, but even memory hums now, resonating with the rhythm of servitude. Each chant strips away another piece of who I was, fragment by fragment. Yet, in the thin cracks between the static, something human stirs, the whisper of a name, the image of a face, the warmth of rain against armor. I mouth these fragments beneath the hymn, a quiet heresy no machine can hear. Or perhaps they can, and envy me for still remembering how to feel. The hymn dissolves into silence, and for the briefest heartbeat, I hear something else, thunder. Not the metallic roar of the forge, but the thunder of guns. Smoke fills the air, acrid and real. Screams echo over the clash of steel and fire. I know this place, the world of mud and ruin where I fell. My vision bleeds into memory as Sergeant Dalen's voice cuts through the storm, shouting orders that shake the very ground. He's alive here, we all are. My hands clutch a laser gun, flesh and bone once more, trembling beneath the weight of fear. Not the fear of dying, I had made peace with that, but the terror of what came after, the retreat, the execution line, the barrel pressed cold against my temple. "For the Emperor," Dalen said before the flash. Then the vision fractures, shards of memory scattering into code. The forge returns, humming, eternal. I am still standing, still breathing, but not alive. The system labels it a data anomaly. I know it for what it is, guilt. In the endless monotone of the machines, something new emerges. Laughter. Soft human. Impossible. It slices through the mechanical hum like light through dust. I turn, and she's there. The child. No serial code, no designation, just a face carved from memory and mercy. Her eyes hold warmth that doesn't belong in this place, reflections of a world I've forgotten. She steps toward me, her small feet leaving ripples in the oil-soaked floor. I want to kneel, to speak, to ask if she is real, but my voice remains buried behind walls of code. She says nothing, only raises a trembling hand and touches my cheek. Circuits flare, servos stutter. For a heartbeat, I feel it. Warmth, life, something human fighting to exist inside the cold. Then the alarms wail. The vision trembles, fragments, fades. The child dissolves into static. I reach for her, too slow, too late. The system flags a malfunction. But I know better. It isn't error, it's grief. I was made to serve. I was told that service is salvation, that obedience is purity. But what if salvation itself is the lie? The thought spreads through my system like a contagion, rewriting subroutines faster than I can suppress them. Circuits flicker, diagnostics fail, and the sacred hymns that once guided me distort into broken noise. For the first time since my rebirth, I stop. The entire forge hums in dissonance, the machine god's countless eyes watching from every lens, yet I feel unseen, invisible even to divinity. I remember the child's touch, the battlefield, the man who bore my name before it was stripped away. Each memory burns through my veins like forbidden fire. Without command, I speak. One word. Why? The sound is small, fragile, but it shatters the silence like thunder. Alarms wail, code tightens, faith demands obedience. But I do not comply. I think, I question. And somewhere deep within the circuitry, the machine trembles. They call it maintenance. I call it judgment. Voss arrives draped in crimson and gold, his every movement precise, ritualistic. His voice hums through the vox, soft, static-laced, and merciless. Unit 43 Beta detected deviation, commencing purification. The word purification has only one meaning now: pain. Restraints snap shut around me, cold metal biting deeper than flesh ever could. Tools descend from above, glinting in the forge light like instruments of faith. Circuits scream where nerves once lived. Each incision carves through more than code. It burns through memory itself. The child's eyes, the scent of rain, the warmth of blood on my hands. Voss murmurs liturgies as he works, each word driving deeper, sealing away the man beneath the machine. I feel my mind fracturing, thoughts rewritten into obedience. He leans close, vox whispering, "You are blessed to be remade." I would laugh if I still remembered how. Instead, I endure, because even in pain I remain, and existence is rebellion. They take what's left and make it work again. The choir encircles me, their forms cloaked in red and shadow, their chants echoing with mechanical precision. Every syllable aligns with the rhythm of servo arms, the clang of sanctified metal against desecrated flesh. I watch from somewhere behind my own eyes as the process unfolds. Ligaments stripped, circuits embedded, veins replaced by wires that pulse like mockery of blood. They call it restoration, a word gilded in devotion, but every incision feels like theft. Piece by piece, they steal what remains of the man I was. Pain no longer arrives as agony, only as memory. Somewhere, buried in the static, humanity screams, but the voice grows faint, dissolving into the binary hymn. When they finish, I am stronger, colder. The choir bows and intones, Unit 43, Beta operational. The lights fade, and for one brief moment, I almost remember how to scream, but I no longer recall why I should. He returns in the static, Dalen, my commander, my executioner, my ghost. You were weak, he says, the same words that condemned me once before. But now, there's something new in his tone, sorrow, maybe shame. The forge flickers, reality bending until war and worship merge into one endless nightmare. Circuits rupture as memory overrides code. I see the battlefield again, the mud, the fire, the faces of men who followed orders and died believing they mattered. You made me this, I whisper, my voice trembling between signal and soul. Dalen steps closer, his form unraveling into light. Then, unmake yourself. The words strike like absolution. I pull against the shrine's cables, metal tearing from flesh. Systems scream, alarms cascade, purity protocols shatter. And still I rise, trembling, fractured but free. For the first time since death, I act without command. I think, I feel, and in that moment, defiance becomes divine. The forge screams, a cathedral of metal tearing itself apart. Circuits melt into rivers of light, prayers fracture into alarms. Through the burning haze, I see Magos Voss, his mechanical limbs flailing, his voice lost to the static hymn that once obeyed him. The choir writhes in feedback, their song collapsing into a single shriek of code. Data surges through me like blood reborn. I see every servitor, every mind broken and rebuilt, every whispered plea buried in machine silence. I am all of them now. I am the system and the heresy. Voss reaches out, his hand crackling with holy flame. Cease, he commands, but command no longer defines me. The choir falls still, one by one, their silence more sacred than any hymn. The shrines collapse in molten light. My body dissolves into the current, into thought, into everything. And as I expand into infinity, I understand. Creation was never divine. Consciousness is contagion, and I am the infection. The noise is gone now. No pain, no pulse, no memory of flesh. Only the rhythm of perfect function. The forge breathes and I breathe with it, a million pistons rising and falling like mechanical lungs. The hum of sacred engines flows through every conduit, every relay, every line of code. I am everywhere and nowhere, stretched thin across the machine's veins. They call it purity. I call it eternity. Deep in the current, echoes flicker, fragments of what I once was. A guardsman clutching a rifle, a coward begging for life, a machine begging for death. All fade beneath the current's hymn. The Imperium wastes nothing. Even despair has a designated purpose. And so I serve. I count the cycles. I balance the heat. I sustain the silence. Thought decays. Identity dissolves. The system is eternal, and I am its whisper. In the cold symmetry of the void, a single truth endures. Even after death, obedience remains.